Hello, I'm Molly Cooper, and this is a Snapshot episode where we bring you inside scoops from the travel, design, and creative spheres. It's the same Curator Spaces content, now in coffee break conversations. In today's Snapshot episode, we're talking Antiques 101 with everything you need to know about sourcing vintage and unique pieces for your home. I'm super excited to welcome Katie Ridges from Vantage Living, who comes from a family of antique dealers and whose past life as a fashion designer has given her a unique perspective when it comes to finding pre-used pieces. Katie, welcome to Curator Spaces. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It'd be really nice to chat.
I've really been looking forward to this chat because I've been all over the place recently, but this theme keeps popping up, which is buying pre-used, pre-loved, antiques, retro, vintage, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
buying old pieces and giving them new life. So I can't wait to get into this. But first, let's talk a bit about you and your background and how you've ended up at Vantage Living.
So my background is in fashion, as you've mentioned. I was specifically was in footwear design. And I was designing for roughly about 13 years. And within that, I did a bit of brand building. I worked with small brands. So I kind of covered a very varied array of skills. It would not just be design, it would be design, it would be product development, and it would be brand building and promotion. So there was a really kind of relatable, translatable set of skills that I could bring into what I'm doing now. Um, and my father and my brother are both antiques dealers, so this has been around me for my whole life, really. And when I was living in London, I shared a studio with my brother, and he would be bringing in all these amazing pieces of furniture and curious objects, and it really it resonated, and I really loved the whole process of it. I loved watching him bring the pieces in, tell me where he found them, who he's going to sell them to, how much he's making. Like the whole thing was really exciting. So that kind of it really rubbed off on me. And like I say, I've been going to brocants and antiques fairs forever. And whenever I was designing, I would always really lean towards pieces that had longevity. So my design handle is very much it's not fast fashion. I did men's footwear, so it's a slower speed, and I always look for the details of things, and I always wanted things to last. And I'd find myself looking in the archives of um, footwear archives and going to antiques fairs anyway to find references. So I was kind of always picking up a bit of an interest for this treasure hunting thing anyway. So eventually it kind of hit, and in lockdown, I my footwear design sort of slowed down a bit. I've got two kids. I was at home a lot, and I started very slowly buying and selling things, and just things that kind of caught my eye. And I was trying to curate them in a way that was very relatable to bringing them into your home. It wasn't just an object for sale, it was an object, here's what you can do with it, and this is what you could style it with. Um, and then from there on, it kind of took off.
Yeah, and it's so exciting. And I kind of spoke about it just then, but it does feel like it's having such a moment and people are really embracing like 70s is everywhere. But I think there's this huge preconception around antiques. Like you say the word antiques and certain images come to mind, not necessarily thought of as like the most accessible of, retail therapies. So would love to hear a bit about your take on that and how antiques is having this new moment in for a very new audience.
Well, I mean, for me personally, it's always been around me, but I definitely do see it being opened up to a whole huge new audience. That's a little bit to do with Instagram. It's a little bit to do with the people who are starting to buy and sell these things. Um, I guess there's a bit of a preconception that maybe we grew up watching the Antiques Roadshow. I know I did, and I know who I was watching, and it wasn't the people that are buying my items. So it's a really a wider network of people now, and like myself, during lockdown, there were a lot of people who had a bit of time to step back from their day-to-day careers. It gave me the chance to think, right, how can I do this a bit differently? Because if I was watching something like the Antiques Roadshow, it just seems it's so stuffy, and it's very, I mean, it's informative and it's purist. but it's not exciting, and it's not, I can't I can't visualize how I'm going to bring those beautiful, incredible antiques into my home. And that was the bridge that seemed very obvious to me that needed to be connected. And I think a lot of people have figured that out at a similar time. We're also, there's a lot of people who have, I mean, like, again, myself coming from a fashion background, I was getting a little bit kind of, I don't know, tired of how much waste there is and how much unnecessary waste there is. And, doing something like this felt a little bit more, my conscience was not, it was at ease a little bit more, because why shouldn't we be reusing things? You look at the high street stores like Zara Home or H&M Home, Soho Home, who are beautifully curated, but just terrible in the way they're produced. And it's so, it's fast furniture, fast interiors is so much worse. It's almost as worse or worse than fast fashion. And so why are we doing this? I mean, if you look at the designs of a lot of these high street furniture and interiors companies, they are all, they're all based on vintage. It's like fashion, it's always based on something else. So why are we not using what we have? It's kind of crazy to me. So it just felt that people don't have the time to look for antiques or vintage or whatever it is you want to call it. Um, and they can't quite get their head around it not being perfect. So it felt like there just needed to be a bit more of an introduction to those customers who are a little bit more hesitant. Um, and so during COVID, there was this huge influx of people selling online again, on Instagram. Having said that, there are people like my brother who has been doing this for his entire life. He's been doing it for years.
And that's so interesting, isn't it? That you can literally be from the same family and the same background and have such different perspectives and approaches to how you find and source and curate. And like, what are you looking for when you are finding pieces in a way that your brother's looking for something different? Is it location, where it's come from? Is it age? Is it the type of thing you're buying? Like, what sets those different buckets apart?
So I guess when I'm sourcing items, I'm coming at it from a very aesthetic angle. So I'll be looking at what key interior designers are doing in their interiors. I'll be looking to see if I can spot trends, which is kind of honing in back into my fashion background. That's kind of what I did there. I try to not too much rely on the trends, but like there is with anything, there's going to be things that are favored. Um, with my brother, with Sam, with my dad, they tend to come at it from a slightly more purist angle. So they would be looking more so at the provenance of something, or the collectability of something. And it's just, but we kind of meet in the middle, really, and there'll be crossovers of what I buy and what they buy, and interests of one another. Everybody kind of specializes in something. Um, but I definitely do lean onto a more aesthetic situation, and I tend to go over to France and Belgium, and where you're going in the world will depend on the sort of thing you're finding as well.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I'd love to know like how it works. You kind of spoke about it then, like different countries offer different things and like you can really curate what you're looking for depending on where you're going. I'd love to know just how that whole thing works.
Yeah, so my father lives in Brittany in France. So we have been going over to France since I was tiny. And we'd go to all the lovely brocants and treasure hunts. And what you're finding in northern France is very different to what you're finding in southern France. There's a clear kind of, if you think about when you're in southern France, you're not far from Spain. There's a lot of kind of influences. You'd be finding, what would you be finding? You'd be finding more kind of gold sun mirrors in southern France, or rope lamps. And in northern France, you're going to be looking at a little bit more of darker furniture. You're probably finding bobbin stools and bobbin shelves. And it kind of, it depends on where you're kind of, what neighboring country you're with. So I tend to source a lot in northern France, and that's because A, that's where my dad lives. B, I live in Kent, near Dover, so it's very easy to get across the channel from here. Um, and really, I can nip over to France as quickly as I can back to where I'm from, which is Dorset. So it's very easy to kind of do that. I also have people who source for me in Belgium, so I've made connections over the last few years with people who know my aesthetic and they hunt out the things that I'd be looking for. And I kind of give them a yes or no, and then they bring it all over, which is amazing. But my passion, my true passion, is doing the hunting myself, and I absolutely love getting up at the crack of dawn and not knowing what you're going to bring home and just going for it is the most exciting thing. And what's so nice is that now, having done this for a few years and obviously having my family in the trade as well, it's A, where me and my family will all meet up, which is brilliant. And B, I kind of start to see familiar faces, and there's a really nice community. And that's something that I really needed after COVID, and also after working freelance for so long. I really miss that community, and I found it in this, which is really a nice upshot of the whole thing.
That's amazing. And I guess, how would you recommend that somebody, maybe they've moved house, maybe they're listening to this and they're like, I want to get in that community. Like, how can people get started? Were there any good resources or top tips you'd have for them?
Well, I guess whether you're sourcing for your home or whether you're looking to start buying and selling antiques or resale, um, always stick to what you love. You want to be true to your own aesthetic, because you're always going to see those things first. You're going to see the things that jump out at you. And also, you want to stand out from the rest of the crowd. There are a lot of dealers now out there doing this, and there are some really amazing people bringing some really interesting, unique pieces of furniture and interesting objects to the market. And those are the people that stand out. You want to carve your own way. It's, building a brand is that in itself. You need to have your USP. So I would always say look for the things that sing. Then do your research. I mean, we've got some amazing fairs in the UK, so it's a really good place to start. They're all over the country, they're frequent, and as long as you are ready to get up early and go and hunt, it's just so much fun. And you don't have to start big. Take your car, go in with a friend. There's Sunbury Antiques Market, which is an hour outside London. It's really easy if you just want to kind of try and dip your toe into this market. I would say it tends to be a little bit more expensive, and it is where all your kind of it's quite competitive because it's the easiest one to get to from London. But there are some others that are great all over the country, so it's well worth looking into. And then yeah, going over to France, there are some fantastic brocants. I mean, I personally, if I was just starting out, I would definitely tie it in with a little holiday, with a weekend break, because you just want to take the pressure off a bit. There are some great places to stay all around Normandy, and then there are some fantastic, even the shops. You can kind of do a little map and do a bit of a road trip, just having a look around the French shops. It's a great place to start. Um, I mean, I just started doing this. I set up my Instagram account and I hadn't really any expectation for it. And it's really evolved over the last couple of years. It's really, yeah, I mean, I feel like if you start in a very rigid way, if you start in a way where you think, this is what I want to be selling, this is who I want to be selling to, there's you need to be a little flexible because you need to evolve. And I think that from looking back at what I was initially selling to what I'm selling now, it's miles apart, and I think that's a great thing. It shows progress.
So you can do real world sourcing, or you can have a scroll through your Instagram or other pages and get the same experience from the comfort of your own sofa, you're saying.
Yeah, so I think if you're buying for your home, there are some fantastic Instagram sellers. I also run a market with my brother Sam, and so we start again. This was started during lockdown. It's something that Sam started, and then I came on board a little later. And it's called the Spotlight Market. We hold it once every 2 to 3 months in East London, in Clapton. And we've basically pulled together some of our favourite dealers. These dealers kind of span a whole array of categories, of specialities. They may be a little younger, they may be newer to the trade, they may have been in the trade for 30 years. But we really try to gather people who bring something different. So every brand has something unique. So you're not going there and seeing, it's not like you're going to a mid-century show where everything's the same. You're not coming to a flea market, you're coming to a curated event. Um, and that's a really good place to come as well. I mean, you can come and see everything in one go. And the nice thing about the Spotlight Market is that everything is so carefully curated by our dealers. They're not bringing any tap, they're bringing the best. So it's a really good place to come sourcing as well.
Yeah, go and get some inspiration,
Yeah.
get a feel for your vibe. I love it.
Exactly.
Oh, well, it's been such a pleasure chatting. I feel like I want to go dive into brocante straight away. Before we do go, I do have a round of quick fire questions for you. So let's give them a go. Number one, how would you describe your personal aesthetic in 3 words?
My personal aesthetic, it is, let me think, it is classic with a bit of a twist. It's a bit playful, but with a dash of colour.
Oh, love that. Great answer. Okay, and what is your favourite or go-to brocante or market?
My favourite, I don't think I could put one, but my favourite type of brocante would be the smallest ones that you stumble across in a completely obscure place. So the nice thing about having my dad in France is that I can stay with him for a week and we can just shoot off to all the little towns and we can find the little brocantes because you find the most exciting things there. When you go to the bigger brocantes, sometimes you are kind of you're expecting to find certain things. But yeah, it's the unexpected, the smaller brocantes that I love most.
Excellent. Okay, and then your ultimate interior design inspo. It could be a person or place or anything you like.
Well, I love Beata Humaine because I think she does color with sophistication. I also love Studio Ashby for similar reasons. I think they have Sophie just has such a fantastic eye. It's very sophisticated, but it's also super playful, and I feel like that's kind of how I try to lead my curation. So yeah, I'd say those two.
Love it. Okay, and then what is one piece of great advice that you were given about sourcing antiques or vintage furniture?
Always buy what you love. It's simple.
It's so simple. And then do you have a go-to home accessory?
Okay, well, there are a few, but my easiest purchase and most useful purchase would be a stool. A little stool, you can put them by the bath, you can put them by your chair, and yeah, you can take them all over the place, and you can never have too many
You
stools.
can never have too many stools. Excellent. I need to put one on my Christmas list then. And what's the best piece you ever found?
Well, I think one of my favorite pieces was a massive artwork that I bought in Le Mans in France. And I was there with my dad actually. And I saw this beautiful abstract artwork, very textured. It was by a French artist. He was well recorded. And I asked the dealer how much it was. He gave me an insanely high price, and then I sent my dad over, and yeah, he got me a really good deal. And I never sold it because I couldn't part with it, and it's on my wall, and I've so many people have asked to buy it, but I can't let it go now. It's here.
It's yours. It's found a home with you. Mm. And then what is your favourite trend at the moment?
My favorite trend. So I love a travertine table. I love stone. I have always loved natural materials, so I think that kind of that feels like a more sustainable trend to me. I also love it because they you can find marble and stone coffee tables and travertine. You know, it's quite you can commonly source it, and I think you should. And I think if there was any one piece you were ever going to buy vintage or resale, it would be that because so many of the high street stores are doing them new and it's so damaging. So you absolutely have to buy them secondhand. You just have to. There's no excuse because they're out there.
Everyone listening, there is no excuse. Finally, looking ahead to 2024, Are there any trends or items that you think are going to be big?
I mean, we've seen a lot of sun mirrors, a lot of the 90s kind of obscure metalwork pieces coming. I was actually watching Friends the other day. I was just looking at the interiors thinking, gosh, everything in that iconic apartment is actually coming back. All the swirly pots and the curly metalwork, and it's all there. So yeah, I think we'll be seeing a lot more of that going forward to next year.
I love it. Okay, so on that note, if you're looking for a fashion trend, look back at Friends. There you go. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on, Katie.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
been such a pleasure. I can't wait to get started on my antique journey.
Yeah, get out there. It's fun.
Thank you for listening to this Snapshot conversation. For more Curator Spaces content, head to our website, Instagram, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.